So Long a Letter, Une si longue lettre, published in 1981 in English translation, is a semi-autobiographical epistolary novel by Mariama Ba, a pioneering Senegalese feminist writer. Originally written in French and first published in 1979, it has since become a classic of African literature and feminist writing. Structured as a single long letter from a recently widowed woman, Ramatoulaye Fall, to her best friend Aissatou, the novel addresses themes of gender, marriage, tradition, religion, identity, and female agency within the postcolonial context of Senegalese society. Set against a background of modernity clashing with tradition, So Long a Letter explores the challenges faced by women in patriarchal societies, particularly in polygamous marriages. Through Ramatoulaye's introspective reflections, Mariama Ba offers a deeply personal and political critique of the status of women in post-independence Africa. Structure and form. The novel is written in the form of a personal letter, a literary device that allows Ba to blend confession, narration, and analysis. The epistolary form intensifies the sense of intimacy and emotional immediacy. Ramatoulaye's letter functions as both a therapeutic self-examination and a political manifesto. It also serves as a bridge between two women who made different life choices in response to similar betrayals. This structure avoids traditional plot progression and instead follows a non-linear, reflective mode, delving into past memories and current contemplations. 1. The premise: mourning and reflection. Ramatoulaye Fall, a schoolteacher and mother of 12, writes the letter during the 40-day mourning period following the death of her husband, Moudou Fall. The letter is addressed to her lifelong friend Aissatou Ba, who now lives in America after divorcing her own husband, Madou Ba, a respected doctor. Ramatoulaye's grief is twofold. Not only is she mourning her husband's death, but she is also reprocessing the emotional abandonment she suffered when Moudou married a second wife, Bintou, a girl young enough to be his daughter. 2. Moudou's betrayal and polygamy. Without consulting Ramatoulaye, Moudou enters a polygamous marriage with Bintou, whom he supports lavishly. Ramatoulaye is humiliated, pushed into the background, and effectively abandoned. She continues to raise their children alone while Moudou becomes a stranger in their household. Her pain is intensified by the realization that Binatou's mother encouraged the marriage out of financial desperation. Thus, the practice of polygamy is revealed not only as a male privilege but as a product of socio-economic inequality and cultural pressure. 3. Contrasting lives. Aissatou and Ramatoulaye. The novel contrasts Ramatoulaye's passive endurance with Aissatou's decisive agency. Aissatou faced a similar betrayal when her husband took a second wife. However, she chose to divorce him and move abroad, becoming an independent, self-sufficient woman. Ramatoulaye, in contrast, chose to stay in the marriage out of loyalty, religious beliefs, and concern for her children. Her reflections reveal the emotional cost of this decision, though she ultimately affirms her dignity and commitment to justice and autonomy. 4. Children and the next generation. Much of Ramatoulaye's reflection centers on her children and the challenges of raising them in a modernizing Senegal. She deals with issues like smoking, dating, pregnancy out of wedlock, and generational differences in values. Her role as a mother becomes symbolic of her broader role as a nurturer and moral guide. Her daughter Aissatou, named after her friend, becomes pregnant as a teenager. Ramatoulaye supports her decision to raise the child and insists on her continued education. This support signifies a progressive maternal feminism, balancing compassion with discipline. 5. Male characters. Tradition and hypocrisy. The men in the novel, from Moudou Fall to Madou Ba, often embody patriarchal entitlement and moral hypocrisy. Moudou uses religion to justify his polygamy but neglects the spiritual responsibilities of care, honesty, and equality. Madou betrays his wife under pressure from his aristocratic mother, highlighting the interplay of class, gender, and tradition. Another man, Tamsir, Mudu's brother, proposes to Ramatoulaye after Mudu's death, seeing her as part of a widowed woman's inheritance. Ramatoulaye firmly rejects his proposal, asserting her right to choose her own path. 6. Ramatoulaye's awakening and closing reflections. Over the course of the letter, Ramatoulaye evolves from grief-stricken widow to self-aware feminist. She resolves to live independently and serve society as a teacher, citizen, and mother. She reaffirms her identity as a Muslim woman, an African, and a human being, committed to justice and progress. She ends the letter with love and admiration for Aissatou, thanking her for being a symbol of strength. The letter is both a farewell to the past and a declaration of future purpose. Themes and analysis. 1. Feminism and gender roles. At its core, So Long a Letter is a feminist novel. Ba critiques the social, religious, and cultural structures that limit women's choices. She addresses the double standards in marriage, the lack of female agency, and the emotional burden placed on women in polygamous societies. Ramatoulaye and Aissatou represent two different models of resistance, one through endurance, the other through rupture. Both paths reflect the complexity of womanhood in a patriarchal society. 2. Polygamy and patriarchy. The novel offers a nuanced critique of polygamy, which is permitted in Islam but often practiced in ways that cause emotional harm and inequality. Ba does not reject religion outright but challenges its misuse by men who exploit tradition to satisfy desire or preserve status. The women in polygamous marriages are not just victims, they are also survivors and negotiators. Through characters like Binatu's mother, Ba shows how poverty and social pressure can drive women to participate in their own oppression. 3. Postcolonial Senegal and social change. Set in the aftermath of Senegalese independence, 1960, the novel explores the clash between tradition and modernity. Educated, urban women like Ramatoulaye and Aissatou navigate both Islamic culture and Western ideals. Ba emphasizes the importance of education as a tool for empowerment and societal progress. Senegal's changing landscape, politically, economically, and socially, is mirrored in Ramatoulaye's evolving consciousness. The novel becomes a metaphor for the emancipation of African women in the face of national transformation. 4. Friendship and female solidarity. The friendship between Ramatoulaye and Aissatou anchors the novel. Their shared experiences, mutual respect, and emotional support illustrate the power of female solidarity. In a world where male betrayal is commonplace, female friendship becomes a source of healing and strength. The act of writing the letter itself is an act of reaching out, a means of sharing pain and forging connection. It reclaims voice and agency in a society that silences women. 5. Identity and selfhood. Ramatoulaye's journey is one of self-discovery. At first, she sees herself primarily as a wife and mother. But through grief and introspection, she emerges as a whole person with her own desires, convictions, and dreams. She insists on the right to exist beyond male definitions. This emphasis on personal identity is a radical political act in a context where women are expected to serve others and sacrifice themselves. Style and language. Mariama Ba's prose is lyrical, elegant, and introspective. The epistolary form gives the novel a poetic cadence, blending personal confession with philosophical reflection. Ba uses figurative language and cultural references to infuse her writing with depth and authenticity. Her tone shifts from melancholic to resolute, mirroring Ramatoulaye's transformation. Despite being rooted in a specific cultural setting, her language conveys universal truths about womanhood, justice, and dignity. Legacy and reception. So Long a Letter is widely considered a feminist landmark in African literature. It has been studied in African, Francophone, and postcolonial literature curricula worldwide. Its exploration of polygamy, gender inequality, and women's inner lives was groundbreaking in the African literary canon. Ba's work inspired generations of African women writers to tell their own stories and challenge patriarchal narratives. She demonstrated that African feminism could be culturally grounded, spiritually rich, and politically sharp. Conclusion: Mariama Ba's So Long a Letter is a luminous, courageous, and compassionate exploration of female identity, autonomy, and resistance in postcolonial Africa. Through Ramatoulay's letter, Ba gives voice to the silent anguish of countless women, while also celebrating their strength, wisdom, and dignity. The novel's power lies in its blend of intimate emotion and political insight. It is both a personal catharsis and a universal cry for justice. In a world still grappling with gender inequality and cultural contradictions, So Long a Letter remains a timeless and transformative work.